Thank you all for being here today. As labor leaders, you all know what it means to be stronger together. The pilots of Air Canada Pilots Association know all about being stronger together as well. We see it in their overwhelming support to join in solidarity with the largest pilot union in the world. I couldn't be prouder of the vote and this moment in history. 91.6% of eligible Air Canada pilots participated in the merger vote, and 84.2% voted in favor. That is awesome. While this board will consider the final ratification of the merger later in this meeting, the strong support showcases our common purpose. We'll work together to promote the power of unionism and advance safety on our flight decks and in the skies. We'll also work together to provide the incentive that airline managements need to acknowledge pilots' significant contributions to their companies. Pilots made enormous sacrifices during the pandemic. You kept your airlines in business. You kept your passengers and cargo safe. You made sure that you were ready when the economic recovery came, because you helped ensure there would be an economic recovery. With the climb out of the economic downturn now at full throttle, this union expects airline managements to recognize that it was pilots who saved their companies. It was pilots who positioned them for recovery. In fact, we demand they recognize that our actions brought them to this point of financial strength. With the leadership of this board, our unity has already resulted in contracts with strong improvements in pay, healthcare, retirement, quality of life, and job security at Alaska, Calm Air, Commute Air, Delta, Flair, Hawaiian, JetBlue, PAL Airlines, and Spirit, and a tentative agreement at Amerijet. Even now, as we focus on contract implementation and compliance at many pilot groups, our union is directing our war chest at other critical resources towards nearly half of our pilot groups that continue to negotiate with managements that still refuse to acknowledge our value. On Monday, WestJet pilots issued a 72-hour strike notice to management and the government, stating the countdown before a strike can legally begin under Canadian law. WestJet MEC Chair Bernie Lewell and WestJet MEC SPSC Chair Christina Thompson will join us virtually this afternoon to update us on the latest information. During their all-base informational picket last week, I stood with the WestJet pilots in Calgary to reinforce how the lack of a North American industry standard contract is causing pilots to leave the company or never to seek employment at WestJet. WestJet pilots deserve competitive pay, career progression, and job security. Job security means treating swoop as part of the main line. It also means ensuring Sunwing can't be used as a whipsaw against the WestJet pilots. The pilots of WestJet have the full weight of our international union behind them. ALPA pilots turn up and stand up for each other whenever it's needed. In April, I was honored to walk with FedEx pilots on their informational picket line in New York City. After nearly 2 years of negotiations, their management has failed to offer acceptable terms for a new contract. I can tell you because I was there, FedEx pilots are unified. The strike authorization vote results will be out later this morning, and I have no doubt that the message from FedEx pilots will be loud and clear. And at 10 locations across the United States, 3,000 pilots came out in force at United all-base picket last week. In the packed room where I was at O'Hare, I was proud to present the MEC, on behalf of ALPA's executive board, a $5 million grant from ALPA's major contingency fund. Unanimously approved by this executive board, the grant will support the United MEC's strategic initiatives to get the contract they've earned. At these informational picketing events, and in so many other ways, our international union is putting its full weight behind each and every one of our pilot groups in the United States and Canada. Each event made the unity clear, with pilots representing dozens of other ALPA pilot groups and pilot unions turning out at each rally. It was an incredible show of solidarity and support among line pilots. More broadly, ALPA is fighting efforts by some managements to use pilot supply as an excuse to drive down wages, an excuse to ignore scheduling and working condition issues, and as an excuse to roll back regulations behind the extraordinary level of safety that our union and each of you has fought so hard to achieve. We're stronger together in our work to turn back these efforts, no matter which form they take. And we need every airline pilot in North America and around the world working side by side to ensure that safety wins the day. Efforts to try to change the pilot retirement age is another way some are perpetuating a false narrative of inadequate pilot supply in an attempt to change regulations. ALPA's policy supporting a mandatory airline pilot retirement age of 65 was reaffirmed unanimously by our elected union representatives at the Board of Directors meeting last October. As a result, we're opposing attempts to raise the pilot retirement age in the U.S. Congress. ALPA's elected leaders, through the democratic process, have spoken. We're all obligated to honor and respect their decision and direction. As ALPA leaders, we must reinforce this and reiterate that our own democratic process, through our Board of Directors and local councils, is the appropriate venue to discuss and debate changes to pilot retirement age. Some special interests are once again falsely claiming a lack of available pilots despite record production numbers, while others are suggesting that pilots should be removed from the flight deck altogether. As everyone in this room knows firsthand, airline safety depends on having at least 2 qualified, highly trained, and well-rested pilots on the flight deck at all times. Beginning in February, ALPA joined forces with pilot associations from around the globe to develop a strategic campaign to ensure the public can continue to count on the current high standard of aviation safety that results from always having 2 pilots on the flight deck. We took the lead to design a campaign to highlight the dangers of reduced crew operations and make clear that this threat to aviation safety is not an over-the-horizon concern, but is approaching fast. In fact, Airbus and the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, known as EASA, are already proposing reduced crew operations. While they call it EMCO, or Extended Minimum Crew Operations, it should be called for what it is: single pilot operations during cruise flight on long haul. If single pilot operations during long haul cruise were to take hold in one country, this anti-safety measure will almost surely follow in others. For that reason, any effort to reduce crews on airliner flight decks anywhere in the world must be stopped. In response, ALPA led a global grassroots advocacy campaign, Safety Starts With 2, which we launched at the International Federation of Airline Pilots Association's Global Pilot Symposium recently held in Montreal. Building on a joint opinion piece that was published in March, I joined with presidents of the European Cockpit Association and IFALPA to hold a news conference to reinforce the foundational principle that safety starts with 2 pilots. The campaign features a new website and virtual toolkit for social media engagement, as well as a physical toolkit that includes talking points for pilot unions in other countries to engage their membership, local regulators, and legislators. You'll hear more about this tomorrow afternoon from our ALPA Reduced Crew Ops Committee Chair and EVP Bill Secord and International Affairs Coordinator John Slaus, who are leading ALPA's efforts in this global campaign. Back in America, North America, the data shows that there are more than enough qualified and experienced pilots to meet the current demand in the United States. But rather than acknowledging that the system is working as intended, producing record numbers of pilots, and maintaining high safety standards, some are trying to profit by cutting safety. I've testified before Congress 3 times in the context of its work to reauthorize the FAA administration before expiration on September 30th. Each time, I've made clear that ALPA pilots will not allow life-saving first officer qualification and training requirements to be evaded or rolled back. The FAA's own data shows that since these rules went into effect in 2013, the United States has produced 64,000 pilots, while airlines have hired approximately 40,000 pilot positions over the same period. And during the same time, airline passenger fatalities have been reduced by 99.8%, thanks to life-saving pilot training and standards we now enacted into law. That same law established one level of safety for captains and first officers flying in 121 operations. Not surprisingly, some airlines are trying to skirt the law to try to increase their profit margin. That's why ALPA is opposing SkyWest's application to stand up a subsidiary to shift from one set of safety regulations to another for certain routes serving small and rural communities, all while asking the government to subsidize those operations. What makes SkyWest different is that it applied to the Department of Transportation committing to fly under one set of safety regulations, but now wants permission to use less rigorous regulations for some flights when it chooses. This isn't how our industry became the gold standard of safety. In fighting off these assaults on safety, we're stronger together. In fact, ALPA pilots are always stronger working together to enhance safety and security. Wendy will have more in her report, but let me give you just a few examples. Our union participated in the FAA's Call to Action Safety Summit to identify opportunities to strengthen the system in response to a series of operational incidents. To back it up, we issued an ALPA safety alert reminding pilots to continue to be vigilant. I've been invited by the National Transportation Safety Board Chair Jennifer Homendy to participate in a roundtable discussion next week to review recent runway incursions and discuss possible solutions. Thanks to our collaborative relationship with the NTSB, we were successful in ensuring interviews with pilots involved in recent incidents were protected. Through ALPA's Air Safety Organization and our union's advocacy, we continue to lead on pressing issues, including ensuring the safety of air operations as the July deadline approaches on 5G, aircraft air quality improvements, streamlining the aeromedical certificate approval process, including special issuance, and strengthening protections for voluntary safety reporting programs. Given the hundreds of reports of unruly passengers that have already taken place this year, we remain steadfast in our call to secure our flight decks with secondary barriers on passenger aircraft and primary barriers for all cargo aircraft. We also celebrated the 20th anniversary of the FFDO program and advocated for security measures such as the Protection from Abusive Passengers Act. At the same time, the Jump Seat Flight Finder on ALPA app is up to 3.2 million searches. ALPA is working to improve the known crew member program, which we all know is important to all of us. We've directly engaged with the Transportation Safety Administration leaders regarding the random selection issue. And I've received commitment from TSA Administrator David Pekoski that he will promptly reduce the rate as soon as the data shows they drop in violations. We're also working with the TSA on the next generation of KCM, called the Future Expedited Crew Access Initiative, which will actually look a lot like what we see today, with biometrics and improved efficiency. As I mentioned previously, we have more than enough qualified pilots to meet today's demand. But that doesn't mean we don't need to do more to open the doors of opportunity to inspire the next generation. In the upcoming FAA reauthorization, Congress can build on the strength of America's aviation workforce, maintain safety, and break down the cost barriers for all who aspire to fly. We're also advocating for the Fair and Open Skies Act to ensure that U.S. airline workers have due consideration in foreign airline licensing decisions. In addition, ALPA is calling for the government to align the support it provides to the airline pilot profession with that of other highly skilled professionals. If other highly skilled professions such as law or medicine receive federal loans, why shouldn't airline pilots? We should. We're urging the federal government to provide funding support for aviation education and flight training, as well as passing legislation such as the Flight Education Access Act. Led by Tyler, our union is augmenting our national policy work with scholarships, ACE clubs, and professional development mentoring programs at more than a dozen universities, as well as grade school visits and aviation community outreach. We're also expanding our outreach in Canada through initiatives like Chatter High, a digital career forum for students in the 6th through 12th grade. Tyler will have more details in his report. Speaking of digital outreach, ALPA's social media campaigns are generating outstanding results in reaching our target audiences, including airline managements, the traveling and shipping public, and our members. ALPA's social channels gained more than 7,000 new followers in the first quarter of this year alone. Our content made up more than 3 million impressions, up 23.5% from last quarter, with more than 122,000 engagements, which is an incredible 46.5% jump from last quarter. I'm sure the younger people in the room will know what all that meant. It's a good thing. Another way that ALPA pilots show our engagement is through the ALPA PAC. April was one of the best months ever in terms of total receipts. We have more than 13,000 individual donors this year, and we're on course to exceed our 2019 fundraising record. This will undoubtedly distinguish ALPA among decision makers in Washington, D.C., and continue to make us stronger together. Getting the work done for our pilots day in and day out is what it's all about for us as elected leaders of this union. Together, we're providing more benefits for them. Led by Wes, we're acting on the ALPA Pilot Welfare Benefit Plan, which provides long-term disability, life insurance, and other benefits to ALPA members, and an online payment portal for outstanding dues obligations. We've also moved forward on a proposal for a stipend for volunteers performing national committee work. At this meeting, you'll see a large number of resolutions before you that this administration committed to proactively and efficiently doing the work of the blind pilots, as they expected and they deserve. The days of slow progress or being reluctant to consider change are behind us. This team is committed to embracing new ideas and setting up our great union for the next generation. An example is language you will consider regarding virtual meetings. While there's more to be done in this area, this is an excellent first step towards increasing member engagement and that had previously reduced considerable pushback. I'd like to recognize and thank the Executive Council for your hard work and commitment in considering these new ideas and changes to make our association better, with record numbers of agenda items for its consideration so far this year. Thanks to the leadership of this board, airline pilots recognize the value our union representation and joining the world's largest pilot union. But it's not only airline pilots. Across the United States and Canada, those who would roll back the gold standard of safety and companies that refuse to acknowledge our contribution are seeing with crystal clear clarity that we are stronger together. In conclusion, I'd like to thank my national officer team. We have 4 new officers working together with similar mindsets, and we're doing the work of protecting our profession and improving the lives of our members. I'm so proud to be working with these 4, with Tim, Steve, my EA. Look, I saw your hands go up. I didn't forget you, buddy. Steve, my EA, I couldn't live without him. Ask him about the bullet hole. He'll tell you for hours about the whole thing. And then lastly, a shout out to our staff. We have incredible staff in this association. I had no idea until I actually got to this position. As executive board members, you get to come up here a couple times a year. Executive council comes here 6 times a year and gets to interact with the staff. But until you're up here in one of our positions, you don't realize the true gravity and work that all these folks are doing in the background every single day on behalf of our members. So I really want to thank the staff as well for their hard work. And with that, that's all I have. I'll turn it over to you, Wendy.